The senator from Tennessee.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, first I'd like to say that I joined the senator from New Hampshire, Senator Ayotte. I thank her for her leadership on the Land and Water Conservation Fund. She's been out front on this. She cares about it. She's effective. She works well with other members of the Senate, and my bet is that she will succeed before very long. In 1985 and 86, at President Reagan's request, I was chairman of the President's Commission on Americans Outdoors. And it was our job to look ahead for a generation and try to see what kind of recreational facilities Americans needed in this next generation. And our principal recommendation was that we fully fund the Land and Water Conservation Fund, because since it's been created in the 1960s, it has worked with states as well as through the federal government to create city parks and opportunities to enjoy one of those aspects of the American character that makes us exceptional, and that is the great American outdoors. So Senator Burr of North Carolina, Senator Ayotte of New Hampshire have been among the most vigorous supporters of the Land and Water Conservation Fund. I join with them, and I look forward to their success. Now, on another subject, Madam President, in a few minutes, about 15 minutes, the full Senate will have an opportunity to vote on whether we want to consider this year the Energy and Water Appropriations Bill. We're voting on the motion to proceed to the bill. Now, let me try to put that in plain English. That means that our Appropriations Committee, which consists of 30 members of the Senate, has finished its work on it. In fact, we did that on May 21st. We voted in a bipartisan way, 26-4, to send it to the floor of the Senate. Senator Feinstein, who is a wonderful partner to work with from California, is the ranking Democrat. She helped write the bill. I helped write the bill. 30 other members of the Appropriations Committee helped write the bill. This will be an opportunity for the other 70 members of the Senate to get involved in our first responsibility, which is the Senate appropriations process. So the question is, a yes vote means, yes, as a member of the United States Senate, I'd like to be involved in the energy and water appropriations process. I'd like to have a say about where we put our nuclear waste. I'd like to have a say about our national laboratories and what they're doing to create new jobs for our country. I'd like to have a say about whether we'll be first or whether we'll be in the middle of the pack on supercomputing. I'd like to have a say about whether the harbors along our coasts are dredged and deepened so that the big ships from the Panama Canal, which is being widened, will come to the United States and bring cargo and jobs here instead of the other places. I would like to have a say about nuclear weapons. I'd like to have a say about whether to move ahead with the new class of submarines. All that is in this bill. And all 30 of us on the Appropriations Committee have had our say, but the other 70 have not, Madam President. The other 70 have not. And the way the Senate works is this is the time for senators to stand up and say yes or no. I want to have my say on behalf of my state about national defense, about growth, about jobs, about our country. Now, why wouldn't a United States senator want to do that, Madam President? It's hard for me to understand this. I mean, the Democrats are saying, no, we don't even want to talk about it. They're saying, no, we don't want to debate it. That's our job. It's our job to debate it. They say, well, we have a difference of opinion over spending. You know how big our difference of opinion is? 3%. This bill that we're about to vote on spends 97% as much money as the Democrats want to spend. They want to spend 3% more. I actually think this is a pretty good way to appropriate. That means we've had at least squeezed 3% out. And if later on in a few weeks, we have a way of negotiated an agreement that says we'll spend 3% more, well, Madam President, we can put that 3% in 24 hours. It would not take long at all. That would be the way to do it. The way you're supposed to do an appropriation is bring the bill to the floor, let all 100 senators vote on it, not just the 30 who are on the Appropriations Committee. Have a conference with the House of Representatives. They've had their say. Then we send it to the president, and he has his say. Now, the president has said he'll veto it because it needs to spend 3% more. That is his prerogative under the Constitution. And it's the prerogative of the minority Democrats in the Senate to say, we'll uphold the president's veto because we agree with him on spending. But Madam President, you don't start the process at the beginning and not even allow the full Senate to do its appropriations job. You go through the whole process, let the president have his say, and then we sit down and talk about what to do. This is a very bad precedent that really insults the Senate. What this means is that if the Republicans are in the minority of the Senate in the next Congress, and we have a difference of opinion with the Democrats over how much to spend, we won't have an appropriations process, some might say. They'll say, we have a difference of opinion, and since we have 41 senators, we'll just stop the appropriations process at the beginning. We won't let the rest of the Senate have its say. That's not the way we're supposed to do our job. We're sent here to have our say on behalf of the people. An example or two, if I may. Senator Feinstein and I worked very hard on this bill. It provides a total of $34 billion, $1.2 billion more than last year, $668 million below the president's budget request. The bill's consistent with the federal law, which is called the Budget Control Act. We didn't just make up out of thin air how much to spend. The law tells us how much to spend. That's a law the Senate, the House, and the President all passed, voted for, signed. That governs what we spend. Now, our friends on the other side would like to spend more. That's their prerogative. And they can vote to spend more. But why would they stop us from having a discussion about spending more? Half the bill is non-defense spending, which supports scientific research and laboratories, harbors, locks, and dams. Half the bill is defense spending. Funds nuclear weapons, life extension programs. It maintains our nuclear weapons stockpile. As I said earlier, the Senate Appropriations Committee fully considered it and approved the work that Senator Feinstein had done 26-4 on a bipartisan basis. Defense spending is higher this year, primarily because of an agreement we made a few years ago when we enacted the START Treaty to modernize our nuclear weapons program. It funds several other important agencies, the Department of Energy, the Army Corps of Engineers, the National Nuclear Security Administration. It reduces wasteful spending because of our oversight. Every year, Senator Feinstein and I cut out of our budget at least one program that we consider low priority. We did that again this year. And if the Senate would allow us to have the bill on the floor and discuss it and vote on it and approve it, we could save $150 million from the U.S. contribution to the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor in France. But no, we're not going to discuss that, say our friends on the other side. The bill helps our economy. Former Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke wrote a good column in the Wall Street Journal earlier this week. He said, don't count on the Fed alone to make the economy better. They have to do some other things.
Expired.
I thought I had it until 1:45.
The Democrats have 9 minutes remaining.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If I may have 30 more seconds to wind up, no one told me that.
Without objection.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. President. So I would say to my friends on the other side, if you want to have a say about nuclear waste, about national defense, about national laboratories, about flood control, about waterways, about locks, about dams, then vote yes, because that will give you a say and you will be doing your job. Vote no sets a dangerous precedent for the Senate, which said we're not interested in doing our job on appropriations. I thank the President. I yield the floor.